Good morning and welcome to Unusual Activity powered by FinancialJuice.com with George Avedon and Milton Marmonides. Thank you for joining us this 10th of December 2014. As always, lots happening this morning and overnight. We certainly had a rather impressive uh, comeback from yesterday's rather large risk off trade in the morning. So we'll recap that in just a moment or two. This morning we have S&P 500 futures are lower by 5.25 at 2052.25. And we'll get into the technicals in a little bit, but again, certainly yesterday's day pointed to that 2035 level, as Milton mentioned yesterday, was rather important. Bounced up right from that. And the bigger story here this morning is crude oil, again in the spotlight, lower by $1.68 at $62.12, which is just about a nickel above the low of the day, low of the morning this morning. Again, that's in USD. Gold this morning is lower by $4.20 at 1227.50. Again, we'll get into the technicals when we in a few moments. And again, as we're looking at these commodities, energy prices, it would behoove the trader to always take a look at the DXY, and the DXY is at 88.572, lower by 0.119. So again, we'll continue to monitor that as we go into the prepare for the open here. So let's dive into yesterday's trading day. We had a rather large risk-off trade in the pre-market and opening rotation. For most of the morning, we maintained about a six-handle range until the early afternoon, where we saw a really gradual retracement to the positive towards the end of the day. The S&P, or at least towards near flat towards the end of the day in the S&P 500. S&P 500 finished at 0.02%, down 0.02% at 2059.82. Dow Jones Industrial Average lower by 0.29%, at 17,801.20. Nasdaq is higher by 0.54% at 4766.47. Certainly on the geopolitical and the macroeconomic numbers, we had a few numbers come out this morning, certainly, but the larger story for oil, and again, we're continuing to monitor things in the Middle East, of course, but the larger story here is again out of OPEC, indicating that it's lowered its projection for 2015 by about 300,000 barrels a day to 28.9 million barrels per day. So again, that's about 1.15 million barrels a day less than what they did last month. So clearly having an inflection on oil this morning. Now, certainly, as we've been discussing, there's several countries out there that at some point, the thought process is someone's going to have to, I hate to use the terminology, cry uncle, but not much of a terminology. But again, the lower and lower oil is having an impact on, as we've discussed, Russia, OPEC nations, non-OPEC nations, smaller nations specifically that perhaps are absolutely reliant on crude for revenue. For example, Russia is at 50% of revenue with respect to energy and commodities. So, what's the next stop for oil? We'll discuss that technically in a bit. There's lots of conversation out there with respect to what the larger traders are looking for, and there's a bit of a dichotomy in thought process with respect to where oil is going. There's certainly some indication that some feel that, hey, are we looking at 50 or 40? It should be interesting. Others is this an opportunity to buy up the smaller oil names, perhaps the other larger oil names that have been hit quite a bit with this drop in oil? And again, is there a trade looming for the larger traders? So again, that's something that we are absolutely have an ear to the ground to, and should we hear something, we'll certainly. Should we read something, we'll certainly pass that along into the main chat room. So again, we had a little bit of a rebound in the European and Asian overseas. This morning in economic, we did have the MBA purchase applications. The composite was higher by 7.3%. The purchase applications was higher by 1.0%, and the refi applications was higher by 13.0%. At 10 o'clock, we're anticipating the quarterly service survey. At 10:30, we're having the EIA petroleum status report. Again, with such volatility in the oil, these particular status reports are even more important to watch and understand them as they impact not just the oil itself, but the underlying securities, ETNs, ETFs, and so forth. And we'll get into that in a moment. 10-year note auction results at 1 p.m. Treasury budget at 2, and we had the Baltic Dry Index fall by 2.4% to 911 points. And again, that does tend to be historically a bit of a leading indicator on the Baltic Dry Index. So again, very interesting to watch that over the longer term, maybe days and weeks instead of months, but very interesting there. In overnight Asia, we had the Nikkei lower by 2.25%, Hang Seng higher by 0.16, and Shanghai higher by 2.93. Certainly a bit of volatility coming out of the Shanghai index over the last several days, weeks. We've had some rather impressive gains, and certainly yesterday Shanghai came in quite a bit, and certainly we have a bit of a rebound this morning. So that's something that we're again could have an inflection on markets, but again, watching this. Futures now, just a quick check, are lower by 4.5 at 2053 this morning. The FTSE, let's see, take a look at Europe this morning. The FTSE this morning, we have higher by 0.08%. CAC in Paris higher by 0.33%. DAX in Germany higher by 0.78, and the IBEX in Spain is higher by 0.02. So again, not huge rebound from yesterday's day, but again, a little bit of a rebound. So what we'd like to do perhaps is to jump into the technicals with Milton. Certainly, it's again, futures are lower by 5. We'll take a look where they are in respect to the rest of the morning. We're near the lows, let's say 2052, 2051.52 currently the early morning low. Milt, what are you seeing? Activity, a little bit of a less of a risk off trade compared to yesterday. Certainly had a massive rebound yesterday. We talked about this offline quite a bit. What are you seeing this morning? What's on your mind? What are you anticipating for the day?
Mm. Sure. If I knew that, I'd be a very wealthy man right now. But right now we're basically, we're taking everything minute by minute, second by second. Yesterday, clearly, you can tell that the market still wants to go up. We've been mentioning that for weeks and weeks and months. The complacency is there. Everyone wants the market to go higher. Even on down days, they're buying it up like it's nothing. And it's going to continue until it finally ends. When will it happen? Who knows? But we clearly, on a day-to-day basis here at what we do. So let's just go over a few quick technicals. First off, let's do the ES. We've been mentioning days upon days. The level to watch in that ES was that 2035 level. Yesterday, it hit the ES hit a low of 2033.25, right to support. Bounced right off of it and closed right near highs of the day. Many people do not understand how technical a market really is. If you understand markets and you understand the technicals behind those markets, it could be a life-saving situation, because if you were short in the morning, you would look at those support numbers and think to themselves, okay, it needs to break these levels with volume. If it does not break, maybe I should cover a little bit here or there. If you were thinking that mentality yesterday, it would have saved you a lot of stress and heartache by the end of the close yesterday afternoon. But right now, the levels we're watching, still that 2035 level. It confirmed that support level yesterday by touching right by it and bouncing off of it. We're going to keep an eye on that as a trigger to the downside if it's broken with volume. When we mean broken, we don't mean 1, 2, 3 hand. We mean it needs to go down by below 20 the 2030 number with that volume burst to the downside. Then we could see a support level broken. As of now, it tested it yesterday to a T, bounced right off of it. We're keeping an eye on that number. That's the number that we're watching on the ES. Initially, intraday-wise, the 2050 number is what we're looking at as well. But key number for if you want to see continuation of the downside is that 2035 number to be broken. The next indicator that we mentioned to a T yesterday was the VIX. We told everyone resistance in that 16 number. The VIX yesterday hit a high of 1668, sold right off of it and closed right by the lows of the day. Technicals, my friends. It's a lot of people throw it away because it seems like it's nothing, but clearly, I've told you yesterday our numbers. Nothing changed from that to today, and today it's the same exact thing. That 16 handle, that's resistance, unless it's broken. And if it's broken, it needs to have that vicious break through it. You can see that as the resistance number, as a point to possibly take a little of that off the table. Perfect example was yesterday. Hit that 16 number and closed what? At 14. So it seems like it's being run by a few select technical indicators. We're watching that 14 number. It's back into that range again, 12 to 14. We'll see what happens today. Ideally, what a bear would like to see, we always give you the bullish side of it, but if the bearish view right now, you want to see it base at around this level, on the 15s. It based at the 12s earlier. You want to see a base a little higher, and then you could see a nice break upward above that 16 number. So we're watching to see if it could base here around the 15, 14, high 14s to low 15s, and then turn to the upside. If not, it could easily go back to the 12 ranges again.
Milt, on the VIX, so it seems as though there's a little bit of that particular pop yesterday. If you're looking at the daily chart, we have the daily chart up. Looks like it's as if it's like a small little gap up. No, on the VIX. I mean, do we want to fill that? I mean, what's your
like we mentioned the other day, Joe, when it comes to a broad, a broad indicator, it's usually not a quote unquote a gap play. There was that gap in.
The CL, correct?
No. I'm talking about even in the VIX in October 16.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gap that still needs to be filled around the 23-24 level.
Yes.
So ideally, when it comes to a broad market indicator, the technicals usually are not substantial according to a individual equity or stock.
Got it.
So when you're looking at that, you want to take that into consideration as well. Not all gaps, especially in situations like this, can be or will be filled. Do they typically? Yes. Can it be a little longer, especially for a broad-based instrument? Of course. So that's why I really don't mention a gap on, when it comes to the VIX or the CL or something like that, because sometimes it takes time for those to be filled because it's more of a broad view instead of just a simple indicating equity or stock. So that, it's could it happen? Yes. Will happen probably eventually. All gaps usually do get filled, but they could take longer than usual regarding broad instrument plays.
Perfect. Thank you.
Let me jump onto oil real quick. Break into lows again. We say it every day. Stay away until you see something different happening in this oil play. It seems like it wants to go lower. Just like the market seems like it wants to go higher, oil seems like it wants to go lower. And as of now, it's going to continue going lower until a base is formed or until something substantial happens on that side of the business. But right now, you have to keep a close eye on where and what oil is really doing. And right now, oil is really just going down. Until that can stop and stabilize around the 60s, hopefully, maybe we could see a nice turn. But as of now, our recommendation has been for weeks, since in the 70s and the high 70s, stay away until you see some stabilization in this market. Don't be a hero. Stay away. Let it do what it needs to do, and then you can move forward. We'll just jump on gold real quick, and then we'll just pass it back to George. Gold, it's above the support level. Support level is at 1200 number. We've been mentioning the 1250 resistance. So maybe we can see a trade up to that number, but it needs a substantial move with volume to break those levels. We're watching it here. It's breaking out. It broke higher off that 1200 support, went to 1230. 1230 is the other day. We're keeping a close eye on it. Looks like it may be basing a little bit here at the pre-market. It's down only a couple bucks this morning at the 1230 number. We're keeping an eye on it. 1200 support to the downside, 1250 resistance to the upside. And that is basically, what our feel is on gold. If the 1200 number breaks, you could easily see that 1150 number get back into play. So, George, that's just a quick technical feel on the markets. And, if anything,
perfect.
we'll
Thanks,
just take
Milt.
from there.
Perfect. Thank you, Milt. So again, folks, the takeaway here is when you're looking for breakouts, when you're looking for, you want to see conviction plays, as Milton said in the very beginning. Those major support notes that we put up, those are really important levels, not just to individual traders, not just to in larger investors, really institutionals. These particular levels are already built into algos. Technical analysts constantly monitor these types of information, and they put it into their models. And yes, there's fundamental. Absolutely, we're both fundamental and technical. But and I know it's a bit of a oxymoron. Certainly, either folks are either fundamental or technical, but we believe in both. We believe that there is an effect by both technical analysis and fundamental information. Fundamental information can certainly precipitate a particular move. And technical analysis will also give you that guide of that move, and I think that's really important to note. So again, we want to see convictions, any particular moves, any particular resistance breaks or support breaks. Remember, a resistant something breaks, goes through a resistance. It becomes a support. Anything breaks support becomes a resistance, and those are really important. Those are really important things to remember. It's very basic. It's part of that Econ 101 that we always talk about. But again, it's really important to know. So let's continue on what we see. Let's take a quick look at where we are in the markets. and commodities, energy, and raw materials. In the S&P futures, we are lower by 4.5 points currently. So just right in between that 5 and 4.5 down, currently at 2053.00. Heating oil, excuse me, let's get into the um, oil currently down by $1.53 at $62.31. USD, of course. On the distillate side, gasoline lower by 0.0443 at 1.6786. Heating oil lower by 0.017 at 2.0670. Natural gas higher by 0.02 at 3.672. We have gold lower by $3.10 at $1,228.70. Silver lower as well this morning by about a nickel at $17.08. Platinum is down $3.90 at $1,242.70. Cocoa is lower by $3 at $29.49. The reason we like to bring up cocoa and that's not just because we enjoy coffee, but the fact that a lot of the West African nations are cocoa producers, and it should Ebola enter the picture again. A little bit of a headline a little bit ago with respect to Ebola. We'll get into that in just a moment. But again, it's one of the reasons that we bring that up. On the treasuries, we have the 5-year at 1.627, the 10-year at 2.225, and the 30-year at 2.879. What we've been mentioning on the U.S. Treasury side is the fact that the 2 and the 5-year have come up in yield and versus a year ago, and we have the 10-year and the 30-year coming down in yield, even as opposed to a month ago. As you know, that if you've been following us consistently, this is one of our major things that we've been monitoring here is the range in the 10-year and the bid in the 30-year that's been coming in, and the belly of the curve, the 2 and the 5-year. Really has come up, so we see a little bit of a flattening or less steep curve, a yield curve, the convexity of the yield curve with respect to the 2 and the 5-year, and that's something that we are watching rather closely because the steeper the yield curve, the more of an expansionary, the thought process is the steeper the yield curve, the more of an expansionary economic environment. The flatter the yield curve, the less of an expansionary environment, where perhaps, quote unquote, if it's truly a flat or inverted yield curve where the 2 and the 5-year are higher yield versus the 10 and the 30-year, then you're getting to recessionary type environment. Again, this is Econ 101, but again, we are seeing a little bit of a flattening on the yield curve, so that's something that we're watching rather closely. On the Ebola side, we want to bring up Ebola. This slide we bring up daily. These are all the stocks in the Ebola. You know, if they're on your radar, if they're on your watch list. I don't know if you're trading these. Certainly, news has the sheer amount of news regarding Ebola, and we've brought this up, has just absolutely seized with respect to whether it's cases or governments or so forth. So that's been an interesting piece. But really, this morning, Congress in the U.S. is in a meeting to approve the Ebola funding today. May see some action in those names, and these are the names. We'll post those into the main chat room, and these are the names that you see here. Anywhere from TKMR to HEB to, which was in the news yesterday, to IBIO, so ABIO and IBIO and ABIO. So again, these are news that's may make headlines today. May make headlines today. We say that with a little bit of caution. We'll see if there's any follow through on that particular headline of Congress meeting to approve the Ebola funding today. So again, we're about a little under 4 minutes before the open in the U.S. Eastern Standard Time. We have Sprint downgraded a couple of. Let's bring it down to specific stocks here, folks. So Sprint downgraded to underperform for perform at Oppenheimer. RVLT, Revolution Lighting, initiated with a buy at Roth Capital. We'll take a look at these stocks as we go through Sprint. We typically look at the 1 minute chart in anticipation of the market open. This way we get a little bit clearer reading on a minute, clearly on a minute-to-minute basis, see if there's any volume and price volatility as we're looking at these particular stocks. Again, Sprint downgraded to underperform from perform at Oppenheimer. RVLT. Revolution Lighting initiated with the buy at Roth Capital. Revolution currently at $1.25. BRCM Broadcom price target raised to $52 from $48 at Oppenheimer, currently at $42.15. And I believe I neglected to mention Sprint is currently $4.46. Certainly lower. It closed right around that $4.56. So about down about a dime, about 10 cents this morning. News out of IBM and Apple. I unveiled 10 apps for governments and businesses, currently at $114.46. IBM is at $163.05 indication for this morning. LIVE reports nearly 600% increase in traffic with national advertising campaign expansion. LIVE live deal currently at $3.06 in early morning, high of $3.15. So we'll see how this translates into trading once all the participants enter the market here. We mentioned ABIO receives FDA orphan drug designation for RNA-PC2, currently at just below 88 cents in pre-market, and we'll see how that progresses, specifically with that headline that we talked about just a few minutes ago with respect to Congress and funding, U.S. possible funding of Ebola funding today. So let's see if we have a correlation with these particular names. TGP, TKLNG initiated with a buy at ABN AMRO. We're not getting anything yet in pre-market. We'll see if that translates into something notable. A few things out of FBR drops estimates, price targets for Macau names. We've mentioned Macau that revenues have fallen over the last several weeks. So few stocks we're keeping an eye on. Las Vegas Sands a bit off this morning at $55.71. MGM Resorts indicating this more just ticked down a bit at $21.40. Win at $155.80 on the open, and MPEL Melco Crown at $24.18 this morning. Again, FPR drops estimates, price targets for Macau names. A couple of things that a few other things on the security software sector. Pacific Crest bullish on security software sector, expecting acceleration and a sea change, quote unquote, in 2015. So a few stocks that were of note is CUDA Barracuda, currently at $36.20. FFIV F5 this morning at $131.78. IMPV Imperva currently at $46.70, and PANW Palo Alto Networks currently at $118.35. So again, bullish on security software sector, expecting acceleration and a sea change in 2015. Let's continue on specific news in the individual securities. Novavax, according to Seeking Alpha article, expects chain reaction in stock price from multiple catalytic events. This is an article with the writer who has 200 plus followers. Currently NVAX at $5.69. The reason why we bring those up, at times there is a articles that do have an effect on specific securities. SNSS was higher in pre-market, currently at $2.55. Cantor Fitzgerald upgrade Synesis Pharmaceuticals to buy. Analyst thinks FDA will consider NDA. Also, Yum Brands cuts outlook on slow recovery in China. It was lower in pre-market by 4.5%, currently lower by about 4.8% at $71.60. ALLT was lower in pre-market. Bank of America downgrade Allot Communications from buy to up from underperform. Lowered price target from $17 to $10. 10.50, excuse me, currently at $8.25. 26 cents, excuse me, lower by about 8.5% this morning in ALLT. Moving on, a few more here, folks. BDC, Belden to acquire Tripwire in $710 million deal. We have currently Belden at $80.39, higher by $7.30. JP Morgan Chase may need another $20 billion after Fed sets new rule. It was lower in pre-market, lower by about 0.6% this morning at $62.10. INVE, Identiv, again another Seeking article with 3,600 followers for the writer. NFC technology integrated into smartphones helps pave the road for Identiv. Author has 3,600 plus followers. So again, interesting note there. Stock is lower by a little bit more than 1% at $13.41 this morning. We talked about the Congress meeting to approve the Ebola funding today. Again, we may see some action in that. So would like to run through some of the insider purchases that we have that you see on your board there. WPX, let's see, director purchases 10,000 shares at $11.23. Currently, the stock is lower by about 2.75% at $11.39. CMLP, Crestwood Partners President, let's see, purchases 20,000 shares at $16.35. Stock is lower this morning. Again, this is Midstream Partners. I would say no doubt is being affected by the lower crude price this morning, but again, President purchases 20,000 shares at $16.35, which is very important. We want to see insider purchases on some of the on these smaller names in the oil industry, in commodities industries, as they've been really beaten down because of the oil price. So it's interesting that we're seeing a little bit more on insider purchases coming out on some of these names. DO Diamond Offshore Drilling, 10% owner purchases 289,000 shares at $29.70. We're lower by 2% this morning at $32.08. H&E Equipment Services, director purchases 3,300 shares at $30, currently lower by about 1% at $27.73. ELMD, director purchases 35,000 shares at $2.25. Not getting much play yet in that particular security, but we'll certainly keep an eye on it. Jones Energy, we're seeing chairman of director, well, chairman of directors and CEO, 10% owner, purchasing 15,000 shares at $10.38. Seeing that Jones Energy down just under 1% at $10.91. SPB, Spectrum Brands Holdings, let's see, purchasing about 42,000 shares at 94.81. Stock is a little bit off this morning by 0.18% at $93.27. A couple more here that we found of note. TDW, Tidewater, we have currently at $29.85. A little bit of a volume uptake here. President director purchasing a total of about 8,000 shares at $29.59 and 61 cents, respectively. NRP, Natural Resources Partners, director purchases 50,000 shares at $9.98. Stock is higher by about 1.5% this morning. And NVC, director purchases 50,000 shares at $3.05. That's exactly where the stock is now. Not seeing much movement there. Let's run through a few more that we have this morning. We have PICO, president purchases just under 50,000 shares at $17.22, currently at $17.60. RES, 10% owner, two 10% owners purchase about 1.3 million shares combined at $12.21. That's an RPC, oil and gas services company. So it's interesting that we're seeing some of these larger share purchasing in these, perhaps not as well-known names in the oil industry and commodity industry. So it's very interesting. We're seeing that currently the stock is at $12.33. VTNR, Vertex Energy, CEO purchasing just under 500,000 shares at $3.07. Higher by 0.87% this morning at $3.47. NBS, director purchasing 20,000 shares at $3.56 at $3.61. Currently higher by about 0.25%. And just a few more, and then we'll get into the syndicates very quickly. GMCR, certainly Green Mountain Coffee, 7,600 share purchase at $133.06. Stock is higher by 2% at 135.73 currently. PSEC, Prospect Capital, currently at $8.35. CEO purchasing 132,000 shares at $8.46. Stock is higher by 0.18%. On the syndicate side, again, these do tend to be dilutive. Let's see what kind of effect these have in the particular securities. AGIO formed to sell $175 million of common stock. Currently, the stock is down by 1.6% at $108.75. BRX this morning is also lower by about 0.6%. Forms to sell 5.6 million shares for holders at currently at $24.18. Again, these syndicates do tend to be a dilutive effect on the particular security and a negative impact, at least initially, on the specific stocks. Cross Country Healthcare, currently at $10.77, lower by about 1%. GPT, Gramercy property currently at $5.79, actually higher this morning by 0. About 0.5% right now, selling 45 million shares of common stock. Again, $5.81. KITE formed to sell 3 million shares of common stock at $52.15 currently, higher by just about 1% in very early trading. So as we take a look at the market very quickly, the S&P 500 futures are lower by 4. We can take a look at the ES, where they are in relation to the rest of the day. So we had a little bit of a slide down in futures towards the open and after the open, but it seems to be like that we've recovered a little bit from that. But again, remember those levels that we've been mentioning. Specifically, we want to see moves with conviction as we progress here. Oil lower by $1.67 at $62.16. At currently at $62.16. So again, low of the morning was $61.70. Just briefly popped up back up above that 62 level. So I think again, very interesting levels here. And again, gold is currently at $1,230 USD, down $2.30. So again, watching these particular indicators. Certainly, it is should prove to be an interesting trading day as always. We wish you folks a great day. We thank you for watching Unusual Activity, powered by FinancialJuice.com with George Avedon and Milton Romanides. We wish you good hunting. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.